Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so happy to have you here, and we have a lot of performances and speakers in store for you. Here's a quick video from TED that we want to play, and then we'll get started.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Yes, so welcome to TEDx Camden. This is our third conference and our first ever conference as TEDx Camden here at Camden High.
Hi, everyone. It's unbelievable to think that 3 years ago, Preeti asked for me to jump on a Zoom call with her, and she spent like 5 hours explaining what a TEDx nonprofit is, what it looks like, and how we could bring it to our community, and we did. From there, we recruited students, worked with sponsors, professionals, businesses, countless stakeholders, and we also vetted through hundreds and hundreds of global speaker applications, while also being in school, and we were able to narrow down to what we felt best contributed to our community, and perfecting their talks to make sure it was what we wanted to bring to the community.
And then after those conferences, something very rewarding came about. All of our talks got published on TED.com. We passed over 2 million views. We were chosen for editors' picks. And since then, we've been hit the ground running. After doing this twice, I think this year we said, let's do it again, but a little bit different.
Yeah, and what better way to do it in the city Invincible?
Yeah, so. This is and continues to be the reason why we do everything, ideas worth spreading. We want to continue to self-organize annual conferences here in the city to successfully bring the community together like this and spark conversations, ignite real change, and really encourage people to critically think about the ideas we're presenting here today.
This year's theme is Invincible, and of course, we've left that up for you to decipher. As for today's agenda, we'll present a few talks, performances, then take a quick break, and then next we'll present more talks and performances. At the end of the conference, there will be food trucks outside. We really encourage you all to take advantage of the day, really make those connections, and be proactive about what these ideas can do for our community and beyond.
Yes. A special thank you to Naima Watson in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Civic Engagement. Yes. The librarians at Paul Robeson for fact-checking all of our talks, Briac O'Brien and the Camden County Historical Society, and the staff here at Camden High that has really helped put this together. Thank you. We are extremely grateful for our speaker coaches, Priya Karthik, Rebecca Masood, and Kim Smith, who have invested so much time, effort, energy into our speakers, and without which this event would truly not be possible. Next, we would like to highlight our production team. Ronald, back with his team at RE Films, Josh in the booth helping us with lighting and sound, as well as our photographers, Hirsa Mersoni, Laura Yamamoto, and Kayla Crozier, who are recording this whole event. And finally, a special shout out to our team members at TEDx Camden in curation, marketing, and finance. Thank you guys for all your hard work.
As we start off the day, we ask you to take the time right now to turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. Please refrain from taking any pictures, especially with the flash on. And we have, photographers and our whole production team in the back. And so videos and photos will be accessible online eventually. We'll be sure to get, all that to you. Additionally, please only leave the room between talks. And ensure that no loud noises like doors shutting are happening just because we are recording all of the talks and performances here, and then we are sending them to TED, and we only get one shot at this, so we definitely don't want unnecessary disruptions or interruptions.
Yep, and final rule is about clapping. You're welcome to do so when a performer or speaker comes on stage, but please do not clap or yell in the middle of a talk as they're being recorded. Bathrooms are located in the back on the left side, this way, in the hallway that everyone came in from. And then if you have any other questions or concerns, we have team members near the doors or on the sides that are happy to help you out. And now with that, let's get started. I'll pass the stage over to Katrina McCombs, Superintendent of the Camden City School District. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Katrina McCombs, and as you already have heard, I am the superintendent of the Camden City School District. I am also here today to welcome you, and it is so wonderful to have you here today, especially here at my alma mater, Camden High School. But every high school in the Camden City School District is special, and every single student is truly invincible. We are extremely excited to host TEDx Camden, as today marks a momentous occasion for both parties. On our end, our staff, students, and residents really get the opportunity to experience and explore an actual TEDx event. And for all of you, you will get to witness and celebrate the wealth of talent residing right here in Camden. Today is not just an event. It is an opportunity that empowers voices, that sparks conversations, and that inspires change. I cannot wait to see what happens as the minds of our students and the minds of everyone in our community are captivated on this day. I'm equally thrilled to showcase the extraordinary talents of our wonderful students who I've already told you are invincible. Each and every day, they push through so many obstacles, so many challenges, and show their resilience in such great ways. So I cannot wait for them to be able to share their talents with you today on the TEDx stage. And finally, I extend my deepest gratitude to the organizing team, the volunteers, sponsors, and most importantly to you, our valued participants and audience. Your presence here amplifies the spirit of Camden, and I am confident that this event will leave an enduring impact on our collective consciousness. So, again, it is without further ado, I welcome you to Camden High Campus. I welcome you to the Camden City School District, but most of all, I welcome you to the City Invincible, and we look forward to this amazing opportunity today. Thank you. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I would like to now welcome Assemblyman William Spearman of the Legislative 5th District onto stage.
Ideas. Ideas are powerful. Just like an acorn grows into a mighty oak. Ideas grow into fantastic things. Whether it's a medical procedure that will save lives, or the Battleship New Jersey, or the Empire State Building, all those things come from ideas. Ideas are what TEDx Camden is all about. Ideas to stimulate, ideas to motivate, ideas to inspire. So sit back, relax, open your mind to new ideas, and welcome to TEDx Camden 2024. And now I welcome our host, Camden City Council.
Good morning. On behalf of our Mayor, Vicar Stoffen, and of course my colleagues, let me just introduce Councilwoman Noemi Soria Perez, Councilwoman Janet Ramos, and Councilman from this ward, and even a graduate of Camden High School, Chris Collins. You know, this is a true blessing for the city of Camden. There's so many, the lights, I can't even see no one. It's like no one is here. But let me just thank Preeti and Melissa because of them bringing, I would say the first, I know they've been at Rutgers University, but here at Camden High or in our community, in the city of Camden. This is so unique. I love TEDx because they're ordinary people. They're extraordinary people that would challenge me, my way of thinking, and then go back to my community, my church, the school, and just talk about that presenter, that speaker, and how he or she challenged me. Imagine globally. It's just amazing. We have so many gifted people throughout, not just in the city, the state, in the United States of America, but globally, internationally. So it is a true blessing, for us to be here and for you to be here as well. So we thank those individuals that I mentioned and their staff and the volunteers, everyone. It is truly a gift, and I appreciate that. Right now, I would like to introduce the councilwoman. We have a resolution, so we're going to ask Preeti as well as Melissa to come forward. And then I'm going to end it with the councilman, because this is his ward, for him to give some remarks. So with that, I want to ask the councilwoman we have a nice commendation on behalf of the governing body.
Thank you so much to all of the organizers, all of the volunteers for making today possible. Thank you for believing in the city of Camden, for reinforcing that the city of Camden is indeed a city invincible. Thank you for all the work that you have put to ensure that we learn today, that we grow today, and that we continue to have hope and possibly inspire future generations. So thank you for all that you have done to make today possible. So on behalf of City Council of the City of Camden, we present this commendation to TEDx Camden Invincible Conference, whereas TEDx Camden is hosting an Invincible Conference on March 9th, 2024 at Camden High School that is sure to inspire action and drive positive transformation in the city of Camden community and beyond. And whereas TEDx Camden is a nonprofit organization part of the TEDx chapter, which is known for its exceptional talks and presentations covering a wide range of topics aiming to amplify the voices that bring ideas worth sharing and share their unique stories with our communities. And whereas TEDx is a program of local, self-organized events that bring people together to share a TED-like experience where its mission is to build a collaborative experience that inspires others to purposeful action and aim to promote collaboration between all schools, organizations, community leaders to inspire positive change. And whereas TEDx Camden will bring together leading thinkers, performers, doers, and speakers to share ideas that can make an impact in any discipline and promises an unforgettable experience that will inspire, challenge, and entertain you. From thought-provoking talks to mesmerizing performances by renowned entrepreneur and intuitive coaches, and networking opportunities that will allow you to engage with the TEDx lineup. Now, therefore, be it resolved by City Council of the City of Camden that it hereby commends TEDx Camden team for their unwavering commitment to excellence and their dedication to creating a truly invincible conference experience in the City of Camden, and wishes them continued success in our community. Thank you so, so much.
Once again, we want to thank you all for coming out today. Although TEDx has been in Camden for a few years, this is my very first TEDx experience, and I'm excited to be here. I want to thank you again on behalf of our governing body. We're excited, and we thank you for taking your time to be here with us today. Thank you.
Okay, let's get started. Our first speaker of the day is Heejun John. She is a highly sought after intuitive coach, business consultant, and screenwriter with over 1 million followers across all of her social media platforms. She was born in Seoul and raised in Berlin and is the founder of Phaedrus. She helps high-performing individuals shake out of their linear ways of thinking so that they can direct their energy, focus, and time into their aligned path. Her approach combines years of training with some of the leading writers, business leaders, and coaches. Her talk is titled, How to Change Your Future with Quantum Relations. Please welcome Heejun John on stage.
I study how the future changes real time based on our perceptions of the world. And the stakes are way higher than you think. I'll give you an example. In the early 60s, there was a music group that kept on getting rejected by record labels. They were told that guitar groups are on their way out and that they have no future in show business. It wasn't until they met a record store owner named Brian Epstein, who heard them play at a local music club and offered to manage them, that their lives began to change. This group was the Beatles. Now, Brian wasn't super familiar with the inner workings of the music industry, but he saw something in the Beatles that no one did at the time. He worked tirelessly to secure their record deal and to shape their public persona. Under his management, the Beatles went on to become one of the most successful and influential bands of all time. Brian is what I call a quantum connection to the Beatles, someone who had an eye for something and no one else did. And he was able to capture the upward potential of the Beatles, even though there was no guarantee that it will benefit him at all. But in today's world, with the rise of technology and social media, it's become so easy to reduce people down to superficial metrics: followers, likes, income, productivity. Essentially, people that appear to give us some kind of predictable return based on their current state of being. I call this a Newtonian relationship. But this isn't just in the entertainment industry. This happens in corporate culture, our homes, community clubs. Humans have become more linear and transactional in nature, even though we don't think, feel, grow linearly as human beings. This has led to major repercussions across various facets of our lives. Who we choose to date, who we choose to marry, who we choose to work for, have been largely reduced to short-term transactional convenience. So why is quantum relationship the answer to fixing this phenomena? Because according to quantum physics, all possibilities exist, but it is our observation that can influence the outcome. And as technological advancements and economic challenges put pressure on our time and focus, our ability to control what we can perceive about each other, ourselves, and the world around us has greatly diminished. As you can only imagine, this greatly shapes our decision-making process, which could lead to suboptimal outcomes. So if it is true that our perceptions can change the future, not only should we be conscious of how we perceive each other and ourselves, but we should also participate in helping each other interpret our realities more mindfully in order to unlock a greater collective potential. For example, Brian could have easily told the Beatles that they had no future in music. And that could have been the very last time that they ever tried. And we may have never heard their songs again. So if we can fortify the very pillars that our internal worlds are built on, our perceptions with quantum relationship practices, we may just be able to create a more invincible future together. Of course, relationships are not perfectly analogous to physics, but it is true that not a single person can observe all points of view at once. And it is also true that two people can experience the exact same events and have a completely different outcome, which is what happened to the Beatles. So how do we practice quantum relationships? Here are 3 concrete steps inspired by 3 fundamental concepts of quantum physics. The first concept is the concept of superposition. When a particle is in superposition, it exists in multiple states at once until a single state is observed. So for example, in a deck of playing cards, when a card is facing down, no one really knows what it is, for sure, until it is flipped over and revealed. In other words, all possibilities exist, but what ends up materializing is what we observe. How does this translate to our relational practice? We can consciously choose to perceive the highest meaning in a situation. If all possibilities are real, why can't we point out the most positive interpretation of a circumstance and uplift one another rather than give a negative knee-jerk reaction? Even if we mean well, how can we not habitualize assuming or jumping to the worst conclusion? There are ways to encourage multiple perspectives and meanings without being dishonest or unrealistic. For example, Brian didn't see a version of the Beatles that everybody else saw. He simply saw a version that didn't materialize yet. He didn't just decide that they had no future. Using superposition, he simply decided they needed a different audience. The second concept is called quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is when 2 or more particles are influencing each other no matter how far apart they are. There is a very simple yet powerful relational technique with this. Do not let your past influence other people's futures. We all know not to let our own past influence our own futures, but what about other people's futures? Our personal histories, traumas, actions very much have a ripple effect on other people because we're social creatures, constantly operating off of feedback 24/7. How often do bosses, parents, lovers, peers, friends control, demand, project onto one another in order for their own dreams or fears to be validated or coddled? And how often do people actually adjust themselves and their choices for their loved ones, even if it's a cost to them and their personal truth? On the flip side, how often do we write off innocent people because they triggered our deepest wounds? But that could have been the key to our growth. If the past is the very thing that we're trying to shake out of, it's not enough that we're aware of the story. We should also be in tune with how our unconscious perceptions influence other people, positively or negatively. And instead of just rationalize it away, use it as feedback to address our unresolved stories. By various accounts, the Beatles didn't want to work with Brian either. They had such bad experience with managers before. But after meeting with him a couple of times, they decided to give him a shot. Remember though, Brian wasn't very experienced in the music industry. So this was still a risk regardless, across the board. This just goes to show you the importance of not letting your past and your perceptions get in the way of relationships, because it could prevent positive, unexpected outcomes for everyone involved. The third and final concept is the concept of quantum interference. Quantum interference is when the final state of the particle is the sum of all other possible states and their individual magnitudes. So for example, an Olympic athlete could win a gold, silver, bronze, or nothing at all. All these outcomes exist, just at different probabilities. And an amazing coach will do whatever it takes to bump them from a bronze path to a gold path by observing and tweaking the routines and habits, rather than saying, that's it, you're stuck with the bronze, sorry. How does this translate to a relational practice? See yourself and others in ways that will increase the odds of success, not decrease it. People often conflate being a pessimist with being a realist. But as we just discussed, with superposition and quantum entanglement, we are constantly influencing each other with our past and our perceptions. So if the path that ends up materializing is the one with the highest probability, we need to confront the ways in which we perceive and behave that not only decelerate our success, but the success of those around us. And no matter how dismal the situation seems, look for an angle or an opening to tilt the scale in our favor, rather than throw the baby out with the bathwater. The Beatles were very rough around the edges when they first met Brian. In fact, that is the reason why Brian couldn't quickly land a record deal. But he continued to advocate for them. He continued to study where they could have a competitive edge. In fact, it was his idea that they wore suits on stage so that they appear more professional. Essentially, he was obsessed with landing on a winning formula rather than focusing on the failures and the rejections. In today's world, across virtually every single industry, we are inundated with KPIs and early indicators of success that are designed to help us form early decisions. And some of them may be completely valid. But what if some are also self-fulfilling prophecies as a result of us observing downside risk first? And how many wonderful opportunities can we be shutting down every single day as a result? Today, more than ever, we need quantum relationships. People who see what data or trends don't capture. People who see potential in us before we see it in ourselves. In fact, the relationships that make us the most resilient, powerful, and well-rounded are not the ones that are the most convenient or comfortable. We all know that one person that lifted us out of dark times when we didn't want to get out of it. We all know that one person that told us to go start the company when we didn't think we were qualified. We all know that one person that gave us very difficult truth at the cost of losing the relationship, but their perspective and insights change our lives forever. Similarly, the most consciousness-raising inventions and movies of all time were not the ones that were really popular at first. The introduction of cars, airplanes, internet all drew a lot of backlash because people didn't feel safe. Cult classic films such as The Matrix or The Schindler's List faced a lot of resistance from producers at first because the contents were out there and triggering. It's really no different in relationships. The very future that seems unreachable to us may be unlocked through those who have an unfamiliar yet positively different perceptions than us. So the true implication of quantum relationship is self-responsibility. Because we can't practice quantum relationship with each other, let alone ourselves, unless we are hypercritical of our unconscious perceptions that put a limit on how we view the world, and therefore put a limit on the potential paths that could unfold. And without this self-responsibility piece, we may continue to operate in a transactional, short-term type of way where we only show up and assist and help to the extent that we feel safe, and technically, there's nothing wrong with that. Except, all it does is protect us from the downside risk of a relationship rather than capture the upward potential. So, if we can fortify the very pillars that our internal worlds are built on with quantum relationship practices, we are giving ourselves permission to expand our mental and emotional real estates in directions that our past selves would have never thought possible. So, if there's one thing you can take away from this today to start practicing quantum relationship, it is this. Instead of asking, what can you do for me? Start asking, what do you see that I don't? Try this and see how your future changes real time. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. What a great start to the conference. Thank you so much, Heejun. For our next piece, we have an amazing performance in store for you. I'm happy to present the Universal African Dance and Drum Ensemble, founded in 1984 by the late Robert and Wanda Dickerson. This piece presents a visually and emotionally stimulating performance representing the beauty of African culture. The Unity Community of South Jersey Incorporated has been saving lives in the city of Camden and the tri-state area for over 40 years, and the UAD has had the pleasure to perform all over the world, including representing America on international stages. It is my honor to call the UA team on stage. Please welcome Sako Dickerson, Jaleel Dickerson, Dwayne Johnson Jr., Quadir Sabri, Nadir Dickerson, Lyric Berry, Taj Johnson, Yakira Watson, Cabria Watson, Anissa Johnson, Kenyetta Sabri, Bombay Bangora, and Alira and Alani Dickerson. Thank you.
Ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, ayama. Ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, ayama. Ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama. Ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama. Hey, ayama, yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama, 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 yama, yama, ayama, oh, yama, ayama.
Universal African Dance and Drum Ensemble. Universal African Dancers. Come on, show your love for those djembe players. Universal African Dance and Drum Ensemble. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much for demonstrating the beauty of African culture with your amazing performance. Hi, everyone. So my name is Priyal Shah. I'm a curation specialist here on the TEDx team. And next, I would like to welcome our speaker, Paul Epstein, onto stage. So Paul is an Emmy-nominated director, producer, and writer with over 20 years of experience in the film and TV industry. So he's based in New York, and he is produced with a variety of streamers and networks, including Peacock, MSNBC, Discovery, History, and so many more. Paul strives to reshape the TV landscape in a favor of a longer format, high-quality programming. His TEDx talk is titled, "The Liar's Dividend, Dawn of the DCP." Please help me welcome Paul Epstein onto stage.
You've all probably heard of video content known as deepfakes. Those videos where a real person's appearance has been digitally altered to make them look like somebody else, most often a popular public figure. And if you take that at face value, you see what I did there? They can seem kind of gimmicky, good for a chuckle as you scroll down your endless social media feeds, although maybe you are seeing more of them these days. In fact, there's an uncrowned king of deepfakes right now. I bet you know who that is, right? Tom Cruise. But it's also not Tom Cruise. You're actually looking at this guy, Miles Fisher, a Tom Cruise impersonator who's the flesh and blood model for many super realistic Tom Cruise fakes. Now let's say one more thing about deepfake Tom. As far as we know, the real Tom Cruise has never given anyone his permission to make these videos. And as far as we know, there's very little he can do to stop it. And that's why deepfake Tom isn't just fun and games. It's a clear warning about what generative AI can do, where this technology is headed next, and how it could fundamentally change how most of us live our lives. Impressive as this technology is now, it's still in its infancy. But in the foreseeable future, AI could create entirely digital versions of celebrities or other public figures completely from scratch, without the use of what you might call a source human at all. I call these people digitally created performers, or DCPs. There's two questions that we need to ask about this. First, can a DCP be so realistic that the person on screen, we can't tell the person on screen isn't actually real? And the second, more important question is not whether or not we can do this, but whether we should. For the first question, at least, we already have our answer. The beloved actor Peter Cushing is sadly deceased, but both his likeness and his performance were digitally recreated for his small but important role in Star Wars, Rogue One. More recently, the very much alive Harrison Ford, who's now 81, was made to look about 35 again for the most recent Indiana Jones. And not just for a shot or two, but for an extended and elaborate action sequence. Now, that sequence was incredibly expensive. It took 100 digital artists 3 years to make Harrison Ford look like a young man again. But these digital tools will quickly get better. More importantly, they'll get cheaper. It's only a matter of time before DCPs are cost-effective enough for use in all kinds of video content. Eventually, they'll become the norm. In fact, they'll become so common, we might stop noticing them at all. And that, unfortunately, is the answer to the second question that I asked a moment ago, whether or not we should continue developing DCPs. Now, certainly, we should have well-established rules about tagging or indicating deepfakes as fake. But this technology is racing ahead far faster than our ability to regulate it. And that's the fundamental change in how we'll soon be living our lives that we need to think about right now, while we still have a chance to influence that change before it takes place. Because all over the developed world, people live on and through their screens. We all watch effectively infinite amounts of video content from countless sources. And this content deeply influences how we experience and understand the world. The deepfakes are rapidly making their way onto our screen. And the more advanced this technology becomes, the more realistic they'll seem. We're about to cross what's known as the uncanny valley, which is a tech world concept describing how humans react negatively to simulations of other humans. Well, we might not be able to tell a difference for much longer. But what's keeping this kind of AI back right now is mainly the lack of cooperation from influential celebrities. Scarlett Johansson recently had to sue an app developer for using her digital likeness without her permission. And Tom Hanks had to make a statement disavowing his deep-faked promotion of a dental plan. But what if the dawn of the DCP bypasses famous people entirely? It'll start by replacing relatively unknown actors in TV commercials or other informative video content where nuanced emotional expression, the thing that makes us human, isn't always needed. In fact, this change has already begun. In this Japanese TV commercial for green tea, the person on screen is a DCP, not an actual human, and we might not have noticed the difference if it hadn't been pointed out. Now, this will snowball as content producers reap the financial benefits of not hiring actors or other human-focused jobs for video production. People like costume designers, makeup artists, caterers, even drivers, quite possibly the entire human crew. And forget about putting actors in front of green screens for CGI backdrops. Soon, we won't need the actors at all. DCPs are already replacing background actors, as we see in crowd scenes, as we see here in the hit TV show Ted Lasso. So it's actors without fame or influence that DCPs will replace first. But as I said a moment ago, what's really keeping this from taking off is resistance from influential celebrities. That resistance will fade. Sooner or later, some A-lister, or maybe just a B-plus lister, will go ahead and agree to license not just their physical appearance, but their entire persona and performance as their own DCP. In Hollywood, money talks. It'll just take a big enough offer from a studio or a content producer for some big name to take the plunge. And then they all will. And why not? Why not have your DCP star in several movies at the same time while you relax at home? The estates of deceased celebrities have even more to gain, as DCPs enable long-dead actors to appear in entirely new content, quite possibly starring in movies and TV alongside still living actors. And even I think a buddy movie starring a digital Jack Lemmon and a real Ryan Gosling does sound pretty entertaining. So this change to what we see on our screens is coming, whether we want it to or not. My final question is, how will this affect the way we live in the future? We're racing towards a world in which we might not know if anything we see on any screen is real. And to be honest, many people might not even care. This is where deepfakes jump the shark, as we say in the TV biz, and create problems extending far beyond entertainment or advertising. We know we're already living in the age of fake news. In the developed world, we inhabit so-called information silos, in which content from various sources reinforces things that we already believe. But that makes us susceptible to false information, especially if it fits into the narrative of those beliefs. So remember deepfake Tom. A little creepy, but also kind of funny. Well, what's not so funny is a deepfaked politician declaring an election result is invalid, followed by deepfakes of trusted news anchors reporting that story as true, then followed by legions of DCPs on our screens repeating that story over and over and over. And while this talk has been mostly about celebrities and public figures, this same technology will soon be able to deepfake the rest of us. People we know, our friends and family. It sounds like science fiction, but the technology already exists. And we only have to fall for it once to doubt everything that we see on a screen. There's a phrase for this, coined by professors Robert Chesney and Danielle Citron in their 2018 paper about deepfakes. They call this effect the liar's dividend. And in a nutshell, the liar's dividend means that making us believe one untrue thing can make us believe that everything else is untrue as well. That's the big idea at stake. The very nature of truth. Already beleaguered, already divisive and debatable. When DCPs replace actual people on our screens, and the line between reality and AI is blurred, and we can't tell the difference, and we just accept it all as normal, we may never make it back to the idea of truth ever again. Thank you.
Thank you for such a thought-provoking talk, Paul. I'll certainly be thinking of that every time I watch TV. Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Balderago. I'm a finance specialist with the TEDx team. Now on stage, I'm happy to introduce Quina Bergen. Quina is an award-winning international performing artist and a cultural ambassador for the U.S. Department of State, who's received an Emmy for her participation in CBS's Black History is Our History public service campaign. Quina has been writing and performing spoken word since she was 8 years old, and years later, her storytelling and powerful use of the craft is still being recognized by institutions across the world today. Her piece today is titled, Diamonds Are Forever. Please welcome Quina Bergen.
Diamonds are often used in lessons when people want to talk about how pressure is the pathway to your progress. To be honest, I always wondered why motivational speakers would stop there and not address all the other steps that were needed. Maybe we all want to believe that after we experience pressure, we can be the gems that we want to be. Unfortunately, you need heat. Environments will change, temperatures will need to increase, and you're going to be tested. Probably in a way that you never expected. So now, that pressure becomes a way for you to measure how much you're willing to endure before you reach the next level. How much you are willing to keep feeling the feelings of discomfort, disappointment, and other people's judgment, but you are in luck. Because we all making it up. Yeah, we just trust that with every challenge ahead of us, it is leading directly to our true destiny. Mistakes will happen. They are your chance to prove to yourself that you learned the lessons from the last chapter. Don't repeat those same patterns. Make new ones. It's okay if they're similar, they just can't be congruent. You can walk into any jewelry store in the world, pick up 2 stones, and the value can change dramatically, even if it is slightly a different tone. That's right. We never talked about price. Diamonds aren't cheap. And most people think that the fancier the shape and the size is the more that you're going to pay for that surprise, but the most expensive cut is round. As simple as it sounds, how a diamond has been damaged is exactly how it gets its amount. I know you have scars. I know you have cuts and scabs. I know when you fall on your face, you want grace, and sometimes they can't. I know, it's sad. Yet you have to understand that people cannot give you something that they have never had. Forgiveness is on too many people's dying wish list, and some people haven't healed past the point where they broke. That is why it is your task to be an example of an unconditional mantle of how you see love. It doesn't matter if they're worthy. They don't need to follow you on your journey. You just need to release them as a worry. Release. Relinquish. That is because in every instance of moving forward, it requires a departure, an abandonment of everything that you've been handling for too long, and I bet a bag of jewels that most of that baggage isn't yours. I see you taking responsibility for things that you are not responsible for. I see you carrying a burden of weight that is anchoring you to the shore. I see you trying to provide a direct line back to the folks that you've known all your life. I know you want to do right. I know how it feels to be a magician, to manifest your deepest ambitions until your reality starts to build. Now you're riddled with survivor's guilt, all because it was your dreams and not theirs that became real. Not gonna lie. I don't know if it'll get better in time. I hope that your life becomes proof as to why you needed to survive. I pray that you find a tribe that you better align with, because a diamond can only be cut by another diamond. And the only way to find it is for you to be different. So tell them what you witnessed in that heat and that pressure. Show off your cuts like they were carved with intention. Share that wisdom. Use your gifts, your talents, those tools that you've been given. Listen, I don't care how long you've had it. Do not take whatever craft you make for granted. That seed was planted in you for a reason, and the season is now. The moment has been chosen. Keep going while the momentum is flowing. Because if you hold roses tightly for too long, you can start to feel their thorns poking. Celebrate your successes. Just don't rest on your laurels. Don't stress on what's next, but double down on what's working. It's worth it. For everything that'll come up to the surface. It's victory, it's legacy, it's breaking generational curses. It's freedom, it's meaning. It's much simpler than it seems, but when it seems like your problems are like dominoes that you can't stop from falling, no, it'll feel like once the first one drops, there's just no way to solving it. No way to find another way. No obvious answers, no path to take, but you could change that. You could change that story today. Give every bad day a reason to stay out of your way and give yourself a chance to grow. The only thing you have to do is let go. You have to let it crumble. You need to watch that tower fall until it turns into rubble. You can always dust yourself off if you get covered. Let this poem be your shovel and dig deep for however long it takes to find it. When mining, you are diving over 100 miles below the surface of the earth. Don't you see that the most beautiful things in life come from the dirt? For what it's worth, your struggle is the source. It is part of the process. Because you never know how strong you can be until it is your only option. Until your back is against the wall, the pressure is turned on, the heat rises to the occasion. Stop waiting for permission to have a life worth living, because strength doesn't come from what you do. You get it by overcoming the things you thought you couldn't. Every time you survive is a point towards your self-confidence until you are consciously the most powerful being you have ever seen. You will never accept defeat. Never settle for what's at the bottom of the barrel, and you'll let the whole world know that you are the strongest material ever naturally grown. You are invincible. A product of patience and time. You are a matter of time. So if those memories ever return, if those thoughts ever come by, you just try to remember that these phases will come and they will go. But diamonds will last forever.
Hi again, everyone. Queena, you're so talented. Thank you for presenting that piece on our stage. Now, before we take a quick 5-minute stretch break, we'd like to pay respect to someone legendary in the audience with us here today. David Goodman, the CEO of Humanity Pictures, had the opportunity to interview the great Larry Miles, Urban Enterprise Zone UEZ member and the owner of La Unique Bookstore and Culture Center in Camden. At 90 years old, he's still going strong, and what an honor it is to be able to hear his story and have him here in the audience with us today.
Greetings. My name is Lawrence W. Miles Sr., better known as Larry Miles. Greetings. My name is Lawrence W. Miles Sr., better known as Larry Miles throughout the city and tri-state area. I am the proud owner of the La Unique African American Bookstore and Culture Center. I have been in this business now, in this building here now, for 38 years. And I'm very proud of it. It's hard work in here. I've had many activities in here, in the Culture Center. I have a museum here, African Museum, which I'm very proud of. And of course, my beautiful bookstore, which I'm refurbishing. Well, what happened is I originally started in here, as I said, in 85, which gives me the 38 years, as a travel agency. But then there came a point where it was not quite profitable as a result of the airlines and fuel crisis. So I decided that I'm going to go into something different. I tried a gift shop, and it was okay, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I ventured out into a small shelf about 8 feet wide and maybe about 7 feet high. And it wasn't quite that high, but so I put children books in. And I, not only myself, the people that was coming into the store seemed to find it very interesting with the children books. So I decided, I don't need a gift shop. What I need is what Lou Rawls has said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. So I decided to branch out, moved out all my mirrors and so forth, and of course, here I am with African American and African American Bookstore and Culture Center. I always liked Camden. After I got here, I think when I moved here, it was the first time I'd ever really been into Camden. And I sort of liked the city, even though it was a small city. At that time, in 71, there were things going on, a lot of activity, fights, riots, so forth. But nevertheless, I took the opportunity to stay here. Being in the urban enterprise zone, I think is great because there are many advantages out there for you. It's just being able to reach out and, get those things. And now, anyhow, you must remember, as I said, 30 years, it's a long time to be in business, not to be involved in something that can help you. This is like, what's the old, I'll use the other word, this is a windfall. I was going to say, God said, this is a windfall, to be in the urban enterprise zone and to be able to serve in it and now give the customers an opportunity to buy something that's less. To be able to have the tax exemptions that's needed for your own business, expansions, products that you need for repairs or service instruments, whatever. This is it's a great opportunity. So the future here it's going to be long-lived, and so, but it may be bigger than what you think it is, or it may become larger than what you expect it to be.
Thank you, Mr. Miles, for being a part of our audience today. We are so honored to have you, and we thank you so much for all the work that you've done in Camden. So, all right, everyone, now we will go ahead and take a quick break. If you'd like to get up and stretch, talk to anyone around you, and we will be back in a couple of minutes with the next presenters. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed the first half of our TEDx conference. Ooh, that's bright. So, my name is Isaiah Rivera, and I'm a curation specialist with the TEDx Camden team. And before we go on to our next speaker, I'm going to showcase a video from New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, who unfortunately couldn't be here in person today, but still wanted to send his wishes.
Hi, Senator Cory Booker. It is an honor to address you all today as you gather for the 2024 TEDx Camden Conference. I can't think of a more fitting location for today's event than what Camden really is, this vibrant, resilient city invincible. I am a huge Camden fan, and I know the wisdom, the value, worth, the beauty, the grace, the strength of this city and its people have so much to say and contribute. As we gather together, let's acknowledge the power of ideas to transform lives, especially the ideas and the genius that comes from places that are too often overlooked. We know that places like Camden and our other incredible cities in New Jersey have the kind of wisdom that can spark impactful change in all of the world. And I know our speakers today will bring it. They'll bring a unique perspective, they'll bring significant contribution, they'll bring joy, laughter, love, and really the strength of the power of the people. Today's conference is not just about listening. I know it's about engaging. It's about questioning. It's about reimagining and rethinking the status quo. And I know we make a lot of assumptions. So together we can challenge assumptions. We can break barriers. We can dare to have a more audacious dream of a better tomorrow. So thank you to the speakers, thank you to the attendees, thank you to the community you all have created to make 2024 TEDx Camden Conference a success. I believe in us. I believe in listening and learning and growing and coming together. There is power in the people. As the old African saying says, spider webs united can tie up a lion. Well, the cords of who we are woven together in the community you're creating, I am just excited about that dynamic spirit that you all are going to unleash. So, to all the future leaders of the Invincible City, all the young folks here, I'm glad we're coming together to learn no matter what, across generation, across ethnicity, across all the differences that often divide us, to show the power and the strength of what comes together from creating community that's united.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Booker, for giving us that video. So next, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Jason Brown. Jason Brown is passionate about storytelling. He expertly merges radio, marketing, and public speaking to engage global audiences. Jason has performed in many arenas, speaking on privilege, leadership, and diversity. His leading principle is use what you love to battle what you hate, which is very apt as his talk is called Possibilities of Privilege. Please welcome to the stage, Jason Brown.
You might have more privilege than me. And that's okay. In fact, I think that might be a good thing. I had the privilege of traveling to India last year after a business trip. I was traveling by myself, and as soon as I stepped out of the tuk-tuk taxi, I realized very quickly that this American was not ready. Chunadi Chowk, the famous marketplace in Delhi, India, is like a maze. Roads that could have been more than 8 feet across were crammed full of people moving in every direction. It felt like there was barely any room to move as motorcycles and mopeds sped past to make deliveries. Bicycles with moms and children traversed between storefronts, and men were making food or soliciting business. I sipped from a bottle of soda pop as I hungrily watched a cook prepare a meal with his bare hands. He repeatedly wiped his sniffling nose, and I quickly lost my appetite. The smells of the food mixed weirdly with the musky fragrances of this old town, and I was completely overwhelmed. I just wanted normalcy, like my normalcy. About an hour later, and about a mile from what felt like chaos, I found myself in an Indian restaurant with waiters in hairnets, limited seating, and filtered water as a plate of buttered chicken was set in front of me. And when I took my first bite, it was so complicated because there was an aftertaste and it wasn't the curry. The aftertaste was privilege. You've heard about the boilerplate definition of privilege, right? As I ate a piece of garlic naan, which is like an Indian flatbread, I thought about it. Privilege is often thought to be an advantage granted to a single group or a whole race. I knew I was privileged, sure, but I couldn't be that privileged, right? After all, I'm a black kid from Philadelphia. But with each bite, I began to understand and realize the privileges of my adventure. In the marketplace, I drank soda pop, a sweet, fizzy beverage, while I thought others drank unclean water. Men like me were making the deliveries, and women were taking care of the children. Those light brown skin like me were running the storefronts. And all of a sudden, I felt guilty. Yet, that night when I took a warm shower in my 5-star hotel, a literal shower thought came to my mind. What if privilege wasn't a bad thing? If we weren't afraid to use the privileges that we have, what would be possible? What are the possibilities of privilege? Or as I like to call it, pop. My mind bubbled with all the possibilities. Imagine that this bottle right here is filled up with all of your privileges. What's in here? Most of us rarely, if ever, think about it. If you have access to clean, drinkable water, you're in the top 73% of the world. If you live in a democracy, you're on the 45th percentile of the world, and that's being pretty generous with the definition of democracy. If you make more than $60,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of the world. All of that is in here. All of us, all of you, have privilege. The problem is that we often define privilege incorrectly. Here's how. First, privilege is both unearned and earned advantage. If you have a functional car, you may have the earned advantage of being able to transport people or goods to any drivable destination. If you are in the audience, you have the unearned privilege and advantage of having drinkable water easily accessible to you. The possibilities of privilege are both earned and unearned advantage. Number two, societal privilege and institutional privilege is not the same as individual privilege. You might think with white privilege that every white person experiences the privileges in the same way. I disagree. No two people are likely to experience the same privileges at the same time, in the same place, in the same way. Privilege intersects with us each differently. The possibilities of privilege are about individual privilege. And number three, individual privilege is not absolute. Privilege is a probability. If you identify as male, you likely make more money than those that don't identify as male. But that might only be true for a few of you, and it might only be true 40% of the time. For those that like to play video games, imagine for a moment that you select a character with a higher probability of finding loot in treasure chests. Your character doesn't find extra loot 100% of the time, they just have a higher probability of it. The possibilities of privilege are a probability. So what's our new definition for the possibilities of privilege? Privilege is the probability of earned and unearned advantage granted to an individual. This bottle is filled up with all of your privileges and their intersectionality. Your abilities, your opportunities, your access, your race, your culture, your income, your nationality, your upbringing, and so much more. So what are the possibilities of privilege? As I explored this question in India, I felt like I unlocked something. There was an energy, there was an urgency, there was a pressure, there was excitement. It kind of felt like if you took a bottle of soda pop and you shook it up. So let's see what happens if we shake the possibilities of privilege. Let's see what happens when we shake the pop. But you're not supposed to shake the pop, Jason. Aren't you afraid? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But by being afraid of privilege, we amplify the harmful effects of it. Look, I understand why we don't want to talk about privilege. Privilege creates guilt when we have extravagance, while others don't have basic needs. Privilege encourages defensiveness and entitlement when we feel like we've earned what others don't have. Privilege invokes anger when we see it used to harm or limit opportunities for oneself or for others. These feelings only scratch the surface of our emotions and the historical impacts of privilege. So yes, privilege can be a bad thing if left unchecked. But if used effectively, it can be world-changing for individuals and for groups. So let's see what happens when we shake the possibilities of privilege. Let's see if we can get past our fear and shake the pop. When I was a kid, my mom and my dad often had to tell me to stop roughhousing with my sister. If you don't know what roughhousing is, it's when you play with your sister and body slam her into the couch for fun. One time, my parents stepped out just for a second, and as soon as they did, I started wrestling with my sister. A few moments later, there was a hole in the drywall right next to the kitchen. Oddly enough, it was in the exact same shape as my sister's head. She was fine because what's worse than getting a bump on the head is getting into trouble. My mom and my dad came in the house saying, "This is why you shouldn't roughhouse with your sister. You don't know your own strength." Still to this day, when I play with my friends, I have to be very aware of this strength ability. Privilege operates in the same way. Left unlearned, unchecked, and undeveloped, privilege can be used to hurt people, especially as an adult. But if mastered and understood, it can be used for good. You have to know your privilege to control your privilege. Imagine for a moment that we considered some of your individual privileges as innate strengths or characteristics. This might align with qualities such as initiative taking or organizational skills. Similarly, this might resonate with traits like outward energy or heightened perception. But just like me as a kid, and even more so as an adult, great care must be made with these newly found strengths so that others don't get hurt. There's 3 ways to shake the possibilities of privilege responsibly. There's 3 ways to shake the pop safely. 1, know your privileges. 2, use your privileges to help yourself. And then 3, use your privileges to help others. Let's create an example. Let's say we have Gary. Gary identifies as male. He has the privilege of being taken more seriously in meetings than those that might not identify as male. But remember, privilege is a probability. It's not a guarantee. First, Gary should learn about his probable privileges, like being taken more seriously in meetings, and seek to understand its impact on himself and the world around him. Pretty easy, right? Second, to help himself, Gary should find responsible ways of using his strength/privilege to aid in his self-improvement. Maybe the knowledge of the strength allows Gary to speak up when a little nervous or moderate a conversation more effectively. And 3, to help others, Gary should find impactful ways of using his strength/privilege to improve his community or his workplace. Maybe Gary helps elevate the voice of a colleague or creates a more welcoming environment for others. These things may seem like they're small, but imagine if everybody could process the privileges in this way. The aggregate effect would create a more empathetic and effective society. By just doing these 3 simple steps, Gary can shake the possibilities of privilege. Just by doing these 3 simple things, you too could shake the pop. Now that you know the basics of shaking the pop, what does this look like in the real world? Imagine that you walk into a business meeting and you notice that most of the attendees are from the same background. What could you do? Thanks for being here on time, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Just taking a quick look around the room, it looks like we might have some strong male and national privileges here today. So if we can, let's really try to listen to each other. Let's take turns speaking. And of course, no interruption. No interruptions for anybody. Does that sound good? Awesome. All right, Sebastian, how are those projections looking? Or at a different company, what if management and leadership crowdsource religious practices and then adjust meeting times during Ramadan for fasting Muslim employees? By just being aware of privilege, or lack thereof, you can offset the harmful effects of privilege and create a healthy, helping culture. But in order to do that, you have to shake the possibilities of privilege. To transform your communities and your workplace, you have to shake the pot. For those that are ready to shake things up right now, here's how you can shake the pot. How do you know your privileges? Consider how everyday comforts are privileges that others lack, and talk with your friends and learn about those disparities. How can you use your privileges to help yourself? Once aware of a privilege, consider it a strength, and then find responsible ways to use it to improve yourself. And most importantly, how can you use your privilege to help others? Enlarge a single parent's world by sharing your professional network. Fuel a young musician's talent through creative mentorship or resource access. Amplify a colleague's voice when it's overshadowed. Ease a friend's journey with a shared ride. And nurture fair discourse through every single interaction. This talk is not meant to explain how to overcome our fear. It's not meant to reveal all of one's privileges or prevent the misuse of these privileges. This talk is meant to reshape an aspect of our lives that traditionally has been demonized and reframe it to be empowering, supportive, and world-changing. Your privileges can be strengths. They can be the one final thing to tie all of our other strengths together. Using them for yourself is a step, but you become even stronger when you use them to help others. Your privileges can be strengths. And the real potential, the ones that excite me the most, are the ones that are realized after we normalize the concept of privilege itself. Being in India made me see my privileges for what they are, strengths. And shaking up those possibilities of privilege allowed me to see India for what it truly is. A country of beauty, of vibrancy, rich in culture and community. For so long, we've taken our privileges and stuck them into this bottle. And we've taken this bottle and put this on the back shelf of our life. Fear, entitlement, anger, and guilt have kept it back there. But what if we take out this bottle together, shake it together, and open it? Some of you might only open it a little bit, and that's okay. But for the rest of you, I hope that every time you learn about a privilege, you shake the pot. Every time that you use your privilege to help someone else, you shake the pot. And especially when you use it to help others, you shake the pot with all of your strength and then open it to allow your privileges to explode into the world to continue to improve the lives of yourselves and others. So let's see what happens when we shake the possibilities of privilege. Let's see what happens when we together shake the pot. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the possibilities of privilege. Next up is a performance we'll remember for a while. The Camden Contemporary Dance Theater was created in March of 2020 here in Camden. It was created, but not limited, to give the dancers from the city of Camden a chance to grow professionally in the art of dance. The founders of the Camden Contemporary Dance Theater are Camden natives Omar Frederick Pratt and Takria Hawkins, who are also alumni of the Camden Creative Arts High School. This is the company's 4th season, and they strive to present bodies of work that incorporate different genres of dance along with storytelling. Please welcome the Camden Contemporary Dance Theater on stage, presenting Time is of the Essence. Just a disclaimer, this performance has flashing lights. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I'm still reeling from that performance that just happened. It was truly beautiful. But moving on to another anticipated presentation of the morning, I would like to present David Goodman here with me today. Yes. David is the CEO of Humanity Pictures and studied acting at Freedom Theater in Philadelphia. In 1994, he joined the Screen Actors Guild and has been performing since. He's appeared in countless films, local and national commercials, and numerous TV shows on platforms like NBC and HBO. It's my absolute honor to speak with David with me today and talk about his journey and work.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, let's just get right into it. So can you please share a little bit about how you kind of started on your journey and when did you realize you wanted to become a performing artist?
Sure. I was actually born in Jersey City, so I've got roots up in North Jersey as well as down here. And I was born in Jersey City, but I was raised in Queens. I lived in Queens, New York at the time that I was born. My mom was just really challenged, had a very challenged life. And as a result, my grandparents felt it was best for my sister and I to be, raised by a caretaker in Queens, New York. So I went to elementary school in Queens, and then on the weekends, I was at my grandparents' house. And that went on for about 10 years. But in 1974, my mom, she started practicing Buddhism. And she was able to transform her life so much so that, and that's a story in and of itself, her life. But she transformed her life so much so that we were able to move in with her in '76 here in Camden, New Jersey. And it was difficult. I mean, I struggled as a teen. I struggled with who I was, struggled with my self-esteem. I was bullied in school. Didn't like myself that much. But I found the arts. I have to give credit to a couple of teachers at Hatch Middle School, Yvonne Kersey, who's passed, but she was the choir director, and Ben White, who had a dance, led the dance group in the school. They brought me into the arts, and that really did a lot for me. And it was in 1977, actually, when you talk about how did I find my dream. In 1977, I'll never forget, Freedom Theater came and did a Black History performance at the school. And I remember sitting in the audience watching this performance and thinking to myself, wow, they look so free. They look so happy, on stage. And at that moment, I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be a performer. And since then, it's been this pursuit of, living a life as a performer.
Wow, sixth grade. I didn't realize how far back Camden was tied to, your roots. But why did you kind of decide to continue to stay in Camden?
I decided to stay here. Actually after high school, my mom had gotten married, and she was married for a couple of years. But it was the summer after I graduated, my stepfather then left. I'll never forget the day when I came down, and he just said, he was done, and he left. I was really, really angry about that. Really struggled with that. But at the same time, he was the breadwinner of the family, so. I went into the workforce, to really help support the family. And I had a, myriad of jobs. I worked at, I'll never forget this gas station on Amerson Boulevard, Amoco gas station. And I worked the night shift, and man, that was a crazy shift on Amerson Boulevard. But I used to walk to work there. I worked at a Wendy's for their overnight shift to work Chi-Chi's Mexican. Anything I could do just to make some money. So I did that, and actually eventually wound up in telemarketing, which turned out to be pretty good because I learned a lot about business in telemarketing. But I worked in telemarketing for about 6 years. But even all during that time, I had this dream of being an actor, and I never lost sight of that dream. And whenever possible to do something in theater, I did it.
Yeah, I mean, you really had a journey, and it's inspiring to see how you overcame that, and so gracefully at that. Since you're here with us today as a successful videographer. You mentioned that your dream got deferred, but you never lost sight of it. How did you and kind of when did you decide to kind of come back into that dream?
I tell you, there's nothing better than having a great life partner.
Oh.
I'm stand here today on the support of so many people, particularly my wife. I got married in 1994, and I was still working in telemarketing, and I wasn't happy doing that kind of work. It just wasn't. It wasn't what it was lucrative. It helped me. We was making some money. It offered me a decent lifestyle, And actually, it was a pathway to meeting my wife as well. And that's, like I said, a story in and of itself. But I wasn't happy doing the job. And my wife, she said to me, she said, I always had this dream of being a teacher. And there's three things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor, a DJ, and a teacher. So she knew what my dream was. And she said, look, you're not happy doing this. We can afford for you to go to school for a couple of years, get a degree, and teach. So I said, okay. So I left my job and went to school. And it was while I was in school, my wife, she encouraged, she said, you have this look. You should do TV, film. I was doing theater at the time, but she said, you should do theater. And I was like, I'm not really sure. She's like, you should give it a shot. So I got some headshots taken, sent them out, and immediately I started getting phone calls about agents wanting to represent me. And I'll never forget my first agent, Greer Lang, out in Malvern, PA. We went in, we sat down, and I think it was that day they sent me out on an audition, and I booked the job. And it just kept going from there. I just kept booking more and more jobs. And it started to conflict with my school. And it was actually, again, my wife who reminded me that she said, you've always had this dream of being an actor. The work is here. What do you want to do? So I decided that, I'm going to make the jump. And I stayed with acting.
Wow, that's really amazing. Now I'm kind of interested to know, because you've had such a successful acting career. I've seen the long list of performances in your bio, but you're here with us today as a videographer. So yeah, I know your work as a videographer has truly changed so many lives and so many people's perspectives, which is the core of what you do. At that time, you were only an actor. So why did you decide to kind of move from being in front of the camera to now being behind the camera?
Being on set, I've always had an interest in technology and the technology of Hollywood, just movie making. And I can remember looking at the camera, hearing them talk, and always wondering, like, wow, what are they talking about? One of the things I also do, I work with a nonprofit here in the city called IDEA, the Institute for the Development of Education in the Arts. And we offer arts programming to kids. So and Cynthia Primus is the CEO of the company, and she's also like a sister to me. I've known Cynthia for almost 40 years. So we were gifted a camera and a computer, and we needed to start to videotape what we were doing. So we didn't have anybody, so I just picked it up and started to do it. And I found that I enjoyed it, especially editing. I loved being able to tell stories through editing. So that's what I did. And I got to a point in 2007, I actually got the name of my company in 2007, Humanity Pictures, telling my stories. But I didn't do anything with it. I did some work here and there, but I didn't really do anything with it. But it wasn't until 2020, the killing of George Floyd, that really did something to me. Just that summertime, I was angry just like so many other folks. I wanted to break some stuff too, But I knew that wouldn't create any value. So I really started to think and pray, like, what could I do that could, create value? And I decided that I am going to start up my production company, and I wanted to create content that could really get people to think differently. Because one of the things I was struck by was the dehumanization of George Floyd. And I said to myself, if you don't see a person as a human being, there's a logic there that says it's okay to treat people that way. And I don't agree with the logic, but I understand it. And I said, well, if I can create content to get people to see the humanity in folks, it's just it's my way of adding to the voice of change. It's not the end all be all, but I just feel strongly that as many voices that could be a chorus for change, you can create this sort of mass, that could create the kind of change that we're looking for.
Yeah. Speaking of humanizing people, your work does just that. I saw your recent ongoing project that was really thought-provoking to not only me, but so many people in our community, Black Fatherhood, the Otherhood. Can you share a little bit more about it with me today?
Yeah. I had this goal of establishing a production company, but I didn't know where to start. I knew I wanted to show the humanity of folks, but I didn't know where to start. But a friend of mine, we were sitting actually at the Idea Center, we were talking. His name is Ozzie Jones. He's an amazing director from Philadelphia and a close friend. We were sitting down and we were just talking, and we were talking about each other's backgrounds. And I was sharing with him, how I grew up, and, I didn't know my dad, and, he talked about his dad. But as we continued to talk, this idea of this myth about Black fathers, because ironically, even though I had that experience when I left high school, after high school, my stepfather left, I never felt like Black men in general were just not good fathers. That dude had challenges, but I never felt. So we were talking about it, and this idea of this myth, which is still here in 2024, about Black men don't take care of their kids. So we talked about that, and I said, there's nobody, I don't know any Black men in my circle that don't take care of their kids. So I started to do some research in the data, and the data actually shows otherwise. And I said, that's a good place for me to start. I'm going to start to tell these stories about Black men, because if I could show Black men in a loving, caring position, light, just like the people have this perception about men now, Black men now, it could start to hopefully seep and change the perception about Black men in other aspects of society. So that's what I decided to do. I was going to start with this story.
That's amazing. For everyone here with us today and those watching on the screen, I would like to show a quick 2-minute trailer of David's project, The Black Fatherhood, The Other Hood. If you could please play the trailer.
I realized that at an early age that's a choice. You could choose to be there, or you could choose to not be there. People can use all the excuses that they want. I didn't have a father, so that's why I'm not there. It's a cop-out. It's an excuse. Just like I said, I didn't have no idea what I was doing, but I made the choice to know that I was going to be there, regardless of whatever happened.
I guess the fact that I didn't have the father love, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I really worried about that. I just knew that I had to be there. I mean, whatever there was.
The importance of fatherhood in people's lives is key, right? And but there's a balance, at least for me, that is important to demonstrate, to show. And I don't mean gender balance. I don't necessarily mean like role balance, but like this fatherhood like balance. And I don't have the words to unpack it, but the importance to me, I think about like balance. And what are the number of things that our young people are receiving day after day after day? This is not commentary on social media. This is not commentary on music. This is just about what we are all inundated with, right? With zero balance.
The love of a father is essential. The love of a father is vulnerability. There is the word there, vulnerability. And it's a hard spot to be in, because here you got to be the king of the castle, but at the same time, you got to be understanding and yielding, and you got to be the type of person that is able to pick them up, brush their knees off, and, keep them moving in the right direction. And it's hard.
I have so many thoughts and questions, but I think it's best I give you the floor. Any follow-up points you want to share?
And this is not to say that there aren't gaps in our society. I mean, fatherless children is an issue across the board. Men have to step up in their families. And but the idea that it's a Black problem is what I take issue with. Because again, it's that slippery slope. When you look at, if you think Black men are irresponsible guys in families, then that slips and seeps into other aspects of society. So my thing was, if I could show them as loving, caring parents, then it's not a hard ask or an unreasonable expectation to have folks look at them that way in other aspects of society. So that's the whole purpose behind this. Just to really change the perceptions, and hopefully when there's times of conflict, hopefully that perspective seeps into the mind of somebody, especially during times of conflict, and it's just a moment of pause. Okay, maybe this guy is a father, he's just having a bad day, or whatever it is. But all I want people is just to have the information in front of them, so they can judge on their own, aside from these myths that are out there. And the data shows 70% of Black men are present in their kids' lives versus 60% of white fathers and even a lower percent of Hispanic fathers. Black fathers are there. So it's a myth that's just untrue. And it's unfortunately diluted and sort of distorted this perspective about black men.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important for people to kind of pause and confront their willful ignorance on this topic. But very important to highlight and break those stereotypes. I know you mentioned that you're a father yourself, and in your experiences as a dad, kind of what led you to this project.
It's interesting. That experience with my stepfather leaving, actually I've grown to appreciate that experience because it was a prime point in my life because I made a determination that I would never do that to my family. And when I got married, I was very intentional about I'm going to do my best. This has got to work. And, I'm fortunate because my wife has made it very easy. She's just, with all due respect to the wives out there, I've got the best one in the universe. So, yeah. And we'll be celebrating our 30th anniversary this coming June, Yes. So that was really important to me, and my daughter and I, we have an amazing relationship. We're like, it's the three of us, like the Three Musketeers, So family, and I give a lot of credit to my mom too, because she's really, her struggle is, her story is just amazing. And what she's done to keep us all together, that was a model for me to follow, a role model for me to just constantly keep in the back of my mind as I was building my own, so.
You're really just amazing. I truly feel so honored and grateful that I'm able to conduct this conversation with you and learn more about you and your work with everyone watching. Everything you do is meaningful, intentional, and creates impactful change, which is everything that TEDx stands for and everything TEDx Camden really is about. So thank you.
Sure. I do have to say that, I'm not here without and one of the deep appreciations I have for my mom is introducing me to my Buddhist practice. And I've been practicing this Buddhism for now 48 years, and this process that we have in our practice, and to give you guys context, if you have ever seen the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, the same chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo that Tina Turner did is the same practice that we have, but it allows you to do this human revolution to really change and transform, and I really believe that my transformation has led me to my wife, my family, and the organization that I practice in was founded in 1930. So we're coming up on our centennial in 2030. And I have a mentor in life who passed away this past November. His name is Daisaku Ikeda. But he wrote some guidance in September of 2020 that talked about the 10 years from 2020 to 2030 are crucial, and we can enact change based on the power of the victory of our human revolution. So for me, I really chanted about that. I chanted those words, like, what did that mean to me? And I realized that, first of all, there's a concept in Buddhism, the oneness of life and its environment. You have your life, you have your environment. They're not mutually exclusive. They're two sides of the same coin. So I realized I can't have that change in society without there being a powerful change in me. And what would that change be? In order to build this film production company, I knew I had to overcome something that's dogged me a lot of my life, which is fear. Fear of whatever, fear of success, fear of failure, just fear. I feel like I've been a fearaholic for a good part of my life. So that was my human revolution, to really attack that fear. So every day that I go about this is a day, I don't know if that fear goes away, but I'm at a point now where I'm really determined not to let that fear stop me. You know what I mean? Not let it stop me, so.
Thank you for sharing that. I think practices from Eastern spirituality are indeed so powerful, and it's magical how you were able to transform your fears into what you called your own human revolution. As we kind of wrap up this conversation, I'm sure I and everyone else here is interested in learning more about what's next for you. So are you allowed to share a bit about your next project, or yes?
I am currently, I'm still working on the documentary. Funding is a huge thing. I'm always looking for funding. I just submitted for a grant. Hopefully that comes through. because that'll allow me to finish this Black fatherhood piece, which I think is so important. But also, there's another piece that I'm working on. It's called Winning Season. And it's right now it's running on YouTube, and it's a 5-part series. And what Winning Season is, I've always wanted to, again, just put content out there that gets people to think differently. I'm a huge person about hope and inspiration. I think we're in a society that is always looking for hope, that needs hope and needs inspiration. So I wanted to put some stuff out there. And people's stories of victory, I think, are very profound and very impactful. So I just started filming people's stories. And I remember I filmed this. I didn't have a name for the series yet. And I filmed this, a friend of mine from Philly, I filmed his story, but again, I didn't. And then I was at Idea Center, and while I was sitting there, a friend of ours came in. Her name is Melissa Morales. And she came in and she had this sweatshirt on that said Winning Season. I was like, ooh, what's that? You know, so she sat down and she shared with me her journey and her ability to win over postpartum depression and live her winning season. And I was so moved by her story that I said to myself, that's it. That's the name of the series. So I asked her, I said, Melissa, would you, I told her what I'm looking to do. Do you mind if I use your brand name for the series? And she's like, absolutely. And I said, that means I have to tell your story. And she was more than happy to do it. So this series, again, it's on YouTube, and it's a 5-part series. I just finished editing, I'm working on the last piece now. And I'm looking for funding so I can continue it. Because, I just found out we just had over 1,000 views for the series. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm so excited about it. Some YouTubers out there, they're probably looking at like just 1,000. But for me and my low expectation self, I'm like, yes, But so I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking for funding to be able to continue doing this and sharing these stories, because it says to me there's 1,000 people out there that need inspiration. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Thank you so much. And that, everyone, is David Goodman.
Hello again, everybody. For our final speaker of the day, it is my pleasure to introduce Ru Yi. Ru is a second-generation Chinese immigrant. They left their job in tech to work in fashion, where they are currently a producer. Their greatest wish in life is to live a lifetime of good conversations, which will definitely make a lot of sense after this TEDx talk. Ru's talk is titled, What Online Slang Teaches Us About Physical Touch. Please welcome Ru Yi on stage.
I have 3 assumptions about you. 1, you are on the internet. 2, you have a phone. 3, you're on social media. And if these assumptions about you are true, then you are currently bearing witness and perhaps even participating in some of the fastest language divergent evolution experienced in living memory. Maybe it's the fact that you use the word lol for laugh out loud, or maybe you append the suffix core to denote an aesthetic category, or maybe it's sticking out your gat for the Rizzler, you're so skibbity, you're so phantom tax, I just want to be your Sigma. This has 1.9 million likes on TikTok. Riz was the Oxford Word of the Year. Valid applications of this word include W-Riz, L-Riz, Unspoken Riz, and the Wizard of Oz. This one's from Depop, a clothing selling app. I can't go that low. I'm sorry, babe. Especially not with the Kazi lives and all that jazz. Kazi lives. Slang for cost of living crisis. Celebrity stan culture drives a lot of slang. She was a dual Balinese and ID Gaffian studies at the German Auto School of Born This Wayology at NYU. Here's a question. What the hell are we saying? Would someone from just a few years ago be able to understand this? Is this linguistic evolution culminating in a digital Tower of Babel where understanding each other becomes impossible? Now, if you're not familiar with the tale of the Tower of Babel, it goes like this. Humans built a tower, reaching for the heavens, that offended God, and as punishment, he splintered all of humanity's language so that nobody could understand each other anymore. And what happens when nobody is able to understand one another? We can't build, we can't cooperate, we are divided. War. But hasn't change always been a facet of language? New technologies are adopted in our lives, and new language comes to adopt this new technology. If I say, last night was a movie, to mean that last night was so crazy, I must first live in a society that has invented the motion picture and access to electricity. So it's important to acknowledge the significance of our online lives, especially amongst the kids of today, who are the next generation of human beings. The kids of today, Generation Alpha, grow up and hang out online. It is Discord servers, Minecraft servers, Twitch streams, and group chats over sleepovers and hanging out at the mall. And when you grow up online, this fundamentally shapes your basis for relationships and reality. So our language is fragmenting. What do we do about it? Our solution is grounded in physical reality. We need to touch each other. Body language is all that is unspoken. When I'm having a face-to-face conversation with you, it's not just about the words that I'm saying, but it's about the language of my body. That's my tone, that's my expression, that's my vibes. Human beings are mammals, and we are physiologically hardwired to understand body language. A gentle touch on the arm means something vastly different from an urgent squeeze. And an awkward silence conveys more than words ever could. A sentence delivered flatly versus enthusiastically means a world of difference. Now, all of this wordlessness is, in fact, the glue of two-way conversation, which we completely lose in online contexts because more often than not, we cannot even see the person that we are talking to online, and all of this context is lost. Shortlisted on the Oxford Word of the Year is parasocial, designating a one-sided, unreciprocated relationship in which a viewer, fan, or follower of a well-known media celebrity or prominent figure comes to falsely believe that they know this figure as a friend. This is a sign of the times. Hyperbolic, context-less, mass online communication adrift from the humanizing presence of other people. When other people are faceless, anons and not real, actual human beings, we can say terrible, cruel, even nonsensical things to them with little to no consequence. Our society is divided. We're angry with each other. We fight online, and this conflict is so deep, we are calling this a culture war. To understand why this is, we have to take a look at the central entity of an online feed, the algorithm. To keep our eyeballs on screens, we are served content that is extreme. And the more that we react and interact with this type of content, the more we are served this same type of content. So polarization is not just incentivized, it is self-sustaining. We are being funneled into our algorithmic digital islands. When Charles Darwin, father of evolutionary biology, sailed to the Galapagos Islands, he noticed the birds, the finches of this island. Although they all evolved from a common ancestor, some of these birds had large seed-crushing bills, while others had sharp, insect-probing beaks. They were all adapted to their specific environments. And just like the finches, our online language is adapting on their specific digital islands for their environments, for their niches. Which is how you get memes like this. So how do you signal, I am one of you, to someone who cannot even see you? Language is not just about what you're saying, but the type of person that you are for using the type of language that you are using. Like a punk in the 80s might signal with fashion, the way that we signal with language comes from layers of cultural anthropology. Slang, in-jokes, memes are purposefully exclusionary. They make you feel like you are part of an in-group when you use this language. But this same fact is the source of conflict and misunderstanding, because two people on their separate digital islands can assign different meanings, different archetypes to the same word. And when they encounter one another online, they can talk right past each other, arguing passionately, unaware that their linguistic clash comes from the diverse online realities that they inhabit. In his essay, "The Medium is the Message," Professor Marshall McLuhan, whose work is a cornerstone of media studies, states that the method of how something is delivered to you is more worthy of sociological study than what is being delivered to you. Take a journey that once would have taken 3 days on horseback, which takes 8 hours on train and 1 hour on plane. When people, supplies, and industry are moved faster and faster, this is what fundamentally changes the shape of our societies. Today, all of us have a screen in our pockets which instantly transports light and information. Observe how this has changed our societies, and observe how this has changed us. In one of the editions of Marshall McLuhan's essay, there was a misprint. The medium is the message, misprinted into the medium is the massage. McLuhan liked it so much that he kept it because it makes a pun. The medium is the mass age. And within this misprint, there's another pun, physical touch. In our online worlds, the opposite, the remedy is physical touch, that which can communicate intention without words. Therefore, physical touch has the power of being telepathic. When someone is feeling sad, they might not want you to say anything to them. They might want you to physically be there for them. A hug, a shoulder to cry on, a listening ear. Magically, this can make someone feel more loved, more secure, and more cared for. It is this sharing and witnessing of wordless physical reality which binds us together. One night, I was feeling particularly upset. I was at a dinner party, and I asked my friends if they could lie down on top of me and be my weighted blanket. And as I felt their weight on me, panini pressing the anxiety out of me, I felt like I could be honest, and it was a great, great relief. This all brought us closer together. When I'm with a group of people and I notice that we are awkwardly standing in a circle, not really touching each other, I ask the group, can we take 2 steps in? And we huddle. And then I'll ask, can we touch foreheads? This makes us fonder for one another. Because arguing with strangers online is a waste of time. It seldom, if ever, changes anything. And right now, our world needs us to change and to build things together in order to mitigate disaster. The only way that we can do that is by working together with people who already share our vision for the future. Instead of trying to prove someone that you disagree with wrong, connect with people who you think are right. Touch has that power. It is primal within us, among us right now in the midst of a loneliness epidemic, in the midst of a culture war. Making oneself vulnerable is radical and essential. Touch invites us to be sensitive to how we use and receive sensation in order to communicate. One must be cognizant never to abuse this power, but to use it as a form of care and protection. And if physical massage is not always feasible for you, consider how you can make your online interactions more personable. You can FaceTime someone instead of texting them. You can phone call someone instead of DMing them. We can all find ways to tap into our shared humanity. Because as much as a political, social, and cultural environment will have you believe otherwise, the very best of humanity comes through in our ability to be generous with one another. We have so much to share, and we are more alike than we are different. We need the internet. We need our phones. We need social media. And yet, physicality remains essential if we ever hope to bridge this cultural chasm widening with every tap, click, and swipe. So, let's make touch an intentional, careful practice. And let's be human together.
So thank you for coming, everyone. That was our final presentation of the morning/afternoon.
Thank you guys again for coming. I just want to make a quick announcement. We did this because we love the city and we want to continue doing this. So if you are interested in joining the team, helping us organize, or even giving a talk or a performance, please reach out to us or catch us before you leave. There will be food trucks outside, so please feel free to go outside, take all of the swag that we have outside as well. But we thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it.
And as a final shout out, I would like to thank all of our team members at TEDx Camden for making this possible, for Ronald at RU Films and his team making videography possible, and then Josh in the back doing lighting and sound. Thank you so much, guys, for making this event possible today. Appreciate it. And then, of course,